big thank you to them once again. And this year, it's really cool because we actually have over 100 participants that registered for the event, which is about 40 to 50 more than we had in previous years. Plus, we have 23 international universities and business schools from all around the world, from the United States to Canada to Asia to Africa to Europe, and 22 different nationalities in total. So once again, a big congratulations to the team who put all of this together. And thank you. And with that said, I would like to first thank our jury. So this is jury number 2, all these fine ladies and gentlemen. A big thank you to each and every one of them because they were the ones who selected all of the projects that you will be seeing today. And the projects that you will be seeing today are very impressive because I've had the chance to see them myself. So a big thank you. Can we get a round of applause for jury number 2, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. And our final jury today is consistent of the lovely men and women that you see sitting in front of you, which consists of Madame Anne-Sophie Roux, who is the founder of Tanaka and France representative of Sustainable Ocean Alliance, Mr. Christian Lim, who is the managing director at Swen Ocean Blue, Madame Cyrielle Hariel, a journalist and a representative of Objectif Raison d'être, and Mr. Matthew Farragut, who is the CEO of CFM Indo-Suez Wealth Management. And also we have Madame Sandrine Sauval, who is the director of Monaco Tech. So a nice round of applause for our final jury today. Thank you very much again. And so without further ado, we will begin by getting into the meat and potatoes of this competition, which is the presentations. So here's how this is going to work. First, we will call the team that will be presenting on stage. At the same time, we will play your video. It's a 1-minute video that they have. While this video is playing, you will come on stage. Once the video ends, the floor is completely yours. You may begin your 6-minute speech, of which I will stop you if you go over time, just to let you know. And then from there, we will go into a Q&A session. Does everybody understand? Good, thank you. Brilliant. So our first team, therefore, is Team Bloom from Babson College in the United States. Can I have a round of applause for that, please? So Team Bloom, please come on stage, and at the same time, we will show your video. Thank you.
Algal blooms impact almost every coastal community in the world. Caused by nutrient pollution, these events cause massive harm to marine life and the coastal communities at the front lines of the climate crisis. In 2021, the Marmara Sea in Turkey endured one of the worst algal blooms in its history in the form of sea mucilage. Villagers had to shovel the mucilage off of the shores to maintain tourism and restore their economy. They either burnt the mucilage or buried it, both of which can leach toxic chemicals into the environment, and they are both not efficient. At Bloom, we created a prototype that would convert the mucilage into pure carbon, so villagers can use the byproduct as fertilizer or alternative energy. Our technology and business is designed to give power to the communities impacted by these algal blooms, so they can diversify their economy and be incentivized to clean up their ecosystem, one bloom at a time.
Algae is the base of almost all food systems. This microscopic plant, however, it's very small, has very sensitive physical features to the impacts of the climate crisis. Although it is very small, in the summer of 2021, the largest algal bloom in the history of Turkish maritime history occurred in the Marmara Sea. And unfortunately, the gills of the fish were clogged, causing massive dead zones. It halted all maritime operations, and it also caused the economy to completely crumble in the Marmara Sea. I would know because I am from the Marmara Sea on the Avşa Island. And when I was there in the summer of 2021, I noticed 3 things. First of all, there was a constant supply of mucilage washing up on shores every single day, and the villagers had to clean it up every morning in order to keep the tourists from coming in. They either burnt it or buried it underground, both of which are very inefficient. And the Turkish government attempted to mitigate this problem by building a large-scale hydrothermal carbonization mechanism. However, it was too large, too resource intensive, and they ended up shutting it down, leaving these people, my family and close friends, stranded. That's why I created Bloom. I wanted to give the power of algal conversion to the coastal communities that need it the most, instead of waiting on government intervention. By integrating this hydrothermal carbonization alongside direct solar thermal heating, we were able to reduce the cost of this mechanism by 40%. Alongside this, you input the mucilage and out comes a very nutrient-dense hydrochar, which can be used as fertilizer or alternative energy source. So as of right now, our competitors are not utilizing direct solar thermal heating because on a large scale, it is very cost intensive. Alongside this, they're selling directly to governments. However, I know personally that it is very inefficient to wait on government intervention in times of crisis through algal blooms. I wanted to give the power to the coastal communities so they didn't have to wait for other interventions. And the global algae market for the mitigation is $20.6 billion. And this will only continue to rise as climate change increases ocean temperatures. So currently, as of right now, Bloom is selling to both private and public sectors. We have a letter of interest from the largest hotel chain in Turkey, interest in buying the product because they already have a workforce that will sell these mechanisms. They go out every single morning scooping this mucilage from the shorelines, and they get about 100 kilograms of mucilage every day. So there's a constant supply. Alongside this, there's no current monetization of the retrieval of algae, especially in Turkey. And we're also trying to focus on the public sector as well, which is governments. We have a partnership with the Balıkesir municipality, which governs the Marmara Sea region, and they already spend 300 million Turkish liras every year, and none of it really makes a direct impact because, again, it doesn't give the people who need it the most the power to control the situation. So as of right now, Bloom's model, we currently have about $100,000 in grant funding, which we have used to build a prototype in partnership with the Izmir Institute of Technology. And we do need funding for research and expansion. This is a proven method for mucilage conversion, but if we got the proper expansion and funding, we would be able to utilize Bloom's technology for food waste and other algae species that impact all over the globe. And as I mentioned, we have a prototype currently in Avşa as of right now that we hope to launch in 2024. And Marmara Sea is not unique. Mucilage exists all over the Mediterranean Sea basin, especially in the Adriatic Sea in Italy. And as of right now, since the Mediterranean Sea is much larger, much cooler, they're not seeing as many dire impacts as Marmara Sea did. However, I view the Marmara Sea as a lab because it is very confined. And if we are able to get a proven method of how Bloom can work on a smaller scale, we'll be able to expand it to the Mediterranean Sea before it is too late. And as of right now, the Northern Mediterranean spends around $800 million in terms of algal mitigation as well. So we will be tapping into this fund, again, giving it to the people. So as I mentioned, we have our prototype finalized hopefully in 2024. And as the numbers on the screen right now do not incorporate costs, it's just pure revenue accumulative. But we currently need about 56 units to break even. And once we do sell 90 units by 2026, we will have about $2.7 million of net profits that we'll be able to reinvest and use to expand again. But in that meantime, we have about 6-month gaps to analyze the data, make sure our process is applicable to the other Mediterranean Sea basins, because we want to make sure we have content to be able to present to municipalities and other private sectors. And as of right now, we built the prototype in partnership with the Olin College of Engineering and the Izmir Institute of Technology. And Bloom was also selected to be a partner of the Cleantech Open Incubator, which is the largest incubator in the United States. And as I mentioned, we have a partnership with the Balıkesir municipality. And I'm also the representative of Turkey in Sustainable Ocean Alliance. So I have key partnerships with politicians who are very interested in this technology and are interested in the monetization of this technology as well. So let's give the power of the conversion of algae to the people who need it the most, both human and non-human, one bloom at a time. Thank you.
So much. So, brilliant, first and foremost. I must say, every year we get projects that come on stage that simply blow my mind. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I was not familiar with algae being such a problem, but the fact that you not only do you bring attention to it, but you have found a way to work with it is really, it's what keeps me coming back every year to this challenge. So congratulations on that. And from there, we will go straight into a 7-minute Q&A session. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to time the session starting when the first question is asked. Once we get to 6 minutes, if we have more questions, I will say last question, last 2 questions. just so we stay on time, and we'll work from there. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Maybe a question, could you develop a little bit, who are your clients? Who will be your clients? And what kind of product which will you sell to each of them? Will it be like the machines? Will it be a service to clean the beaches? Or maybe will your clients will be, I don't know, fuel companies willing to buy your compost?
Yes, I appreciate the question. Just to clarify, we will be selling the mechanism. During the presentation, basically what I noticed in the coastal communities of Turkey is that they already have to scoop the mucilage up every morning. It is what they're doing already. So I do not intend for Bloom to create a collection system, because that is already happening because the villagers have to, or else tourists don't come. That creates hypoxia, which is a lack of dissolved oxygen in the ocean. They do it every morning already. So I'm tapping into that daily function as well. So currently my target market, again, as of right now, we have a hybrid approach through public and private partnerships. But again, we're really focusing on government municipalities alongside the private sector. Again, the hotels, they had a huge issue when the mucilage occurred in the Marmara Sea because no tourists came. And when they had to go out every morning to deploy, they actually lost profits because they spent so much money every day trying to collect the mucilage, but they didn't have a way to, again, make a return on investment for that, because then it just created a bad image for them because of the mucilage. But however, they could be able to reduce their cost for fertilizer if they do convert it. So that's one way to reduce the cost on that aspect of it. And in terms of the government municipalities, again, it boosts the economy in a sense. Again, it brings tourism. So there's pros and cons on both sides. But yes, if that answers your question, we're doing private and public, and we'll only be selling the mechanism as of right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. You did a beautiful job, and I really appreciate the fact that you're trying to build something that doesn't rely on governments, and so that you can move at the pace of the private sector. So that's great. I have maybe a question relating to the impact strategy behind your project. So you're looking to address the issue, by building revenues basically on the collection of the mucilage. Did you consider building a solution that would address the root cause of those algae blooms? And if you consider that, why did you choose to focus on addressing the consequence rather than the cause? Thanks.
Yes, thank you for that question again. I think answering the question, it would tie into the backstory. The nutrient pollution, of course, is the cause of mainly all of the nutrient algal blooms and also mucilage blooms. Essentially, going into the science of it, mucilage is not exactly algae specifically. It is produced by algae as a defense mechanism when there's too many nutrients in the body of water. So as of right now, I wanted to find a way, again, the governments are mainly in charge of reducing the nutrient runoff, especially in Turkey. There's a lot of different things going on in Turkey as of right now, where nutrient runoff is not the main political agenda item, topic of discussion. So it usually goes undiscussed. And when I was tying into your other question, when I was in Turkey, I realized, again, the villagers were burning it and the mucilage. And when they put the ashes on the hillside, the grass grew greener, the flowers grew more prominently. I realized that there was a nutrient content, and that is actually backed up with research conducted by Istanbul Technical University that is a very nitrogen and phosphorus based substance. So once they were putting on the hills, I knew that that was a demand that needed to be met, because obviously mucilage as of right now has a very low sulfur content. So putting it in through the mechanism does not cause any impacts on human health, compared to other algal blooms like a red tide in Florida. That definitely needs more research. I saw the demand firsthand, and I wanted to find a way to, again, the villagers on the island were so hopeless at the time. They didn't know what to do. And given the kind of lack of impact I could have in terms of the entire body of water, in terms of mitigating all nutrient pollution, I wanted to help the coastal communities as much as I could in the personal scale. I wish I could help the entire body of water across the globe, but that's what we're doing in Sustainable Ocean Alliance and through different policy advisory councils. But the direct impact, seeing this, there's no current solutions impacting coastal communities as of right now. So I think this is an amazing start, and hopefully that'll create a tide effect for more ocean action in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. That makes a lot of sense. Starting somewhere.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great presentation. We have questions in terms of scalability. You're talking about 50 machines, mechanism to reach break-even. What are your targets in terms of medium-term production of machines? What would be your scalability passing that break-even point?
Definitely. Thank you again for the question. This graph, I think, is really descriptive of how much mucilage is prominent and becoming more prominent within the entire Mediterranean Sea basin, not only the Marmara Sea, and wherever these dots are, I believe that's a market. And it's not only one customer. There's so many different municipalities, hotels, people who rely on the coastal communities or shorelines to be clean. So I view them each as their own customer in a sense. And the Adriatic Sea, again, I believe is our next step as of right now in terms of outside of Turkey, because they are very familiar with the mucilage crisis. And as of right now, again, we built the prototype with the Izmir Institute of Technology, and we do have a manufacturer there, but we are currently working on finalizing our prototype. I'm very eminent on gaining as many statistics as possible on how much mucilage washes up on shore every day. Basically, mucilage, again, and algae they don't have the same biophysical properties. Basically, mucilage grows from the bottom up, and even if you see it on the surface of the water, that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's always mucilage in every single meter, like about 40 meters down, there is mucilage. So even when it is not warm outside, there's always mucilage washing up on shore. So there's a constant supply of it. So answering your question, scalability, again, it's going to become more of a prominent issue as the Mediterranean, especially the Eastern Mediterranean Sea basin, is going to increase by 3 degrees by 2050, according to the United Nations Environmental Program. So this graph is only, again, the tip of the iceberg. It's going to become much more prominent, and that's why we want to expand to different species of algae. But as of right now, in terms of short-term expansion and scalability, the Adriatic Sea is our next goal, but as long as there's phytoplankton and sea temperature rise, which will unfortunately be the case, we have a market. So we're trying to use our research for that. So, thank you.
We have time, yeah. Thank you so much for this mechanism solutions, because I saw this algae, it was 4 or 5 years ago in Mexico, and it was really a mess. And this is really bad for biodiversity, and I saw baby turtles as it was impossible to them to go to the sea. So thank you for that. And approximately, do you know the average of the cost for your mechanism solution that you want to build to municipalities and again private sector?
Yes, of course. Thank you for asking. Given the short amount of time, it was hard to go down the cost analysis. I believe I had. Yeah, there were some technical issues with my slides. I apologize, but off the top, we currently have estimated costs as of right now. We built our prototype for $48,000. So compared to, again, the $800 million being spent by the entire Mediterranean Sea, we hope to tap into that pre-existing funding. Hopefully with more scale and more efficiency, we'll be able to bring that cost down. But we are doing this only based off of a $100,000 grant. So again, with proper investments and expansion, that's our next goal for the next coming year. Once we finish our research, which will end in December 2023, we hope to scale and launch our prototype in May of 2024. And yes, essentially that is how and we're selling it for $80,000. That's currently our market, because as of right now, the mechanism that Turkey built cost 300 million Turkish liras, which it's basically converted to US dollars. They could buy about 150 of our mechanisms with that money in every coastal community. So we try to go according to that scale, but there's no solution as of right now for coastal communities at that low of a price point. But again, we hope to bring the cost down with further research and the partnerships we have. So thank you. Yes.
That's all we have for time. So thank you very much. Thank you to our judges for your questions, and thank you, Team Bloom, for that presentation. A nice big round of applause, please, for our judges and for our presenter. Thank you very much. Congrats. Brilliant. So we are already off to an absolutely fantastic start. I was blown away by that project. So big congratulations to you guys. And with that being said, we will be moving into our second team from category number 1 of students, which is Team Flexi from the International University of Monaco, École des Mines Paris, and Polytechnica of Bucharest. Big round of applause, please.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and established jury. We are Flexi, the visionary team behind the innovation that helps scientists delicately grasp marine organisms without damaging them. We as a team have come up with this innovation to not only help scientists, but to help the world understand the need for more robotics that are sustainable and affordable.
Researchers study coastal habitats, and especially those facing human pressures. And one way they do this is by using grippers or manipulators attached to remotely operated vehicles. This allows them to pick up samples and study them above waters. Current grippers, however, are made from metal, and these metal grippers, especially those with a strong grab force, can inadvertently crush or damage delicate samples, such as corals or other live species. This decreases the science and the quality of information in the sample. Rob Wood, professor of engineering and applied science at Harvard, says that when interacting with soft and delicate underwater life, it would make more sense for sampling equipment to also be soft and gentle.
Introducing Flexi, a revolutionary underwater robotic arm that is designed to attach to any ROV, making it versatile and adaptable. Its clever bio-inspired design allows it to be exceptionally precise, accurate, and affordable. Flexi is impact-driven by the UN Sustainability Goals 13 and 14. Flexi comes with a range of specialized tools that we call end effectors. These end effectors shown here, for example, is a soft gripper. This soft gripper allows for delicate sample acquisition, allowing for scientists to delicately grasp the organism without crushing it or damaging the surrounding habitat. This is important as research is incredibly important in the ocean due to 80% of the ocean not yet being fully researched. We also have an end effector for a camera and a laser emitter for accurate measurements.
Reach Robotic and Blue Robotics are the two companies which dominate the current market. According to Serge Plains, research director at the French National Center for Scientific Research, and coral preservation specialists, the Blue Robotics classic ROV gripper is not very sufficient when it comes to sampling live animals or corals. However, Flexi has a silicone gripper, which makes it a lot more delicate towards the object's grabbed. We also have easier tech, which means it's easier to repair and maintenance, and overall, the quality of science from the samples collected is higher.
In our market research, we have interviewed executives from companies and academic institutions that currently use ROVs with robotic manipulators. However, they are now interested in one that is more precise and affordable. As you can see on the slide, these are from our interviews and what the market says. This initial market research indicates a demand for Flexi once a prototype is fully field tested. We intend to target 3 diverse markets: the government, the marine research institutions, and companies which use ROVs for commercial purposes. We are in current discussions with Life Mora, who are government funded, and are eager to help test our prototype in the difficult conditions underwater. Institutions such as these currently use ROVs in their research and are in need of a robotic manipulator that is more precise and cost-effective. Companies that we've talked to, such as Underwater Gardens International, have expressed interest in our Flexi once fully commercialized.
The underwater drone market itself was valued at 3.6 billion in 2021 and is projected to reach 15.4 billion in 2031, a compounded annual growth rate of 15.9%. With the blue economy, there are more and more investments underwater, such as coral preservation and sea gardens, where Flexi would be a very valuable tool. We are a product in a blue economy where more and more ROVs are being used. Flexi projects to have the prototype ready for sale in June 2024, and we project to already have revenue in 2024. However, we will also require some funding to cover our startup expenses. The next year, we plan to sell about 110 units for a profit of 140,000. By year 5, we project to sell 210 units at a profit of approximately 500,000 and a margin of 27%. École de Mines de Paris have so far covered the project development for Flexi, and they've invested about 35,000 euros up to date. However, to further succeed, Flexi will need about 175,000 in funding, whereas 50,000 will come from personal investments, and the rest we plan to acquire from angel investors, VCs, family offices, and subsidies. Some of our potential investors which we would like to work with and target are Catapult Ocean, Ocean Ventures, Sea Ahead, and Planet Ocean Fund. The funding will go towards, amongst much, making the prototype ready for commercialization and a patent for Flexi.
Our oceans sustain us, and it's time that we return the favor. In addition to fixing the damage that has already been caused by humans, we must invest in develop options such as Flexi to help protect marine life because it is such an essential part of our delicate ecosystem. Reach deeper and protect better with Flexi. We also have brought a part of our prototype here with us today to show the jury, while we're happy to answer your questions.
Hello, can you hear? Hello? Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very, very inspiring. I have 2 questions. One would be, have you already made a proof of concept in real life, meaning in the environments you are targeting? And the second question would be, how do you approach the activities that are not scientific, that could be also interested by your technology, and how do you address this? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your question. We do have a current prototype, as what is in your hand right now is just a part of it. The current prototype is in the lab at one of our universities. And what is in that prototype has the fishing nets that allow it to rotate and move, as well as the motors and the code with the joystick. And I'll let Josephine take on the other part of the question.
Yeah, so we've reached out to institutions which do both sea gardening, scientific research, but mostly the arms that are already developed, they are very heavy-handed and they're developed for oil and gas. So we're targeting every other industry that requires a more delicate touch, which sampling is the biggest one of those. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Could you explain how you will commercialize Flexi? And have you maybe considered partnering with a RV company to help you with this?
Yes, so first of all, we need to finish the prototype. The arm is ready with the motors. It moves as you saw in the video. What we need to complete is the end effectors, like the grabbing tool. We know how to do it. We just need the funding to complete it.
So maybe just so the question was also, how do you wish to sell your product? How will you approach your clients?
So as we showed, the French 2030 plan funds 3 billion to 5 research institutions. And we've already been in contact with 2 out of 5, which have said that they're very interested. And they've all allowed us to come and test their prototype once we're finished with this. And further, we also discussed with, for example, Underwater Gardens in Spain, a big sea garden, which also expressed interest. So really using our network to find potential clients. And then with the partnerships with the ROV companies, we have definitely considered it. As of right now, we're focusing on Flexi on its own. And then we'll see once the prototype is ready, how we approach that. Yeah.
I have a technical question. What you're planning to produce is the arm, and that has to be attached to a rover, right? And that can be attached to any rovers that are out there on the market. Have you thought about the dependency risk that you have by having just the arm and attaching into the product of another company? Have you thought about creating the rover as well to have a fully integrated machine? Or did I not understand the functioning very well, maybe?
I can first start off and then have our engineering side team describe the more technical part. But we have focused mainly on the arm and then attaching it to different roves, not creating the rove, because there are about 3 different big companies that own that market. And we find that it's the best to just work with them as an accessory than to make the RV itself.
The current ROVs on the market, they are good. It's the accessories that are damaging and that aren't sufficient enough. And that's what our market research shows, is that the scientists, they're content with the ROV. However, the accessories, they don't work as they want them to. Yeah.
So when you talk about a target market about 3 billion, that includes the RVs as well, or that includes only the accessories?
That includes the ROVs as well, yes.
And do you know what's the share of the accessories within that 3 billion target market?
We do not have that information,
Okay.
no. But generally, when you use it for scientific research, most often you're going to want to touch things and see how they are above waters, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have time for one? Okay, thanks, Matt. Yeah, really glad to hear that you are driven by achieving positive impact through this technology, and obviously with science, scientists as customers, you can certainly help achieve better outcomes. But when with regards to corporate customers, have you considered potential negative uses of this technology that could create negative impacts, such as facilitating harvesting of fragile organisms, or I'm thinking, for example, scallops harvesting actually could benefit from that. Today is complicated with current technologies, but with that it could be supported, which could be seen as positive or negative, potentially negative. So have you considered those potential negative applications, and how are you approaching it?
Yes, it's something we think about. The thing is, we're not telling people, hey, go grab objects. We're telling them to grab them in a better way. But to that's why we're working so closely with partners and companies we know from our network, because we want to make sure that we're selling to the right people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take that back. Thank you very much. Nice round of applause. Thank you. Hey, congratulations, guys. Thank you. Very well done. Of course, as always, all of you are fantastically well spoken. I know for some of you, it's not your native language. So to hear you guys speak in English and do it very, very well as well, it's very impressive. So congratulations once again to you. And so we'll be moving into our third team then, our final team in the first category, again, students. And our third team is Team Ocean Now from EDEC Business School in France. Please make your way to the stage. Thank you.
There are multiple interconnected problems affecting the ocean.
Collective response is required.
Ocean Now will drive this collaborative response. We leverage AI to find the perfect match and build trusted connections.
Ocean Now, before it's too late.
Hear me? Yes, good. Okay. We're delighted to be here with you today. My name's Tom and this is Hashika. We're part of the Ocean Now team from EDEC Business School. And I'm going to begin by asking you all a question, okay? So who can tell me what this is? And given where we are and the number of experts in the room, I hope that one or two of you may know. But for those of you that don't, this is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And it's a man-made problem, really, and it's 3 times the size of France. It weighs close to 15,000 times as much as the Eiffel Tower. And by best estimates, will take between 100 to 50 years to clean up. And marine pollution like this is just one part of the problem which falls under SDG 14. And according to the World Economic Forum, we need $175 billion every single year to address SDG 14. Now, currently, we're around $10 billion a year, which means we need 17 times more investment every single year just to address this problem. So this is where Ocean Now comes in, because we are an AI-powered platform which facilitates collaboration between all the main actors in ocean conservation to facilitate and scale local products and projects that have a global impact.
So let's take a closer look at Ocean Now. We have identified 4 key actors that are required to accelerate ocean protection. Whether you are an aqua innovator, an investor, a partner, or an expert, our platform will be tailored for you. So let's take a quick journey. I will now introduce you to Kenzie. Kenzie is a scale-up aqua innovator based in Costa Rica, looking to expand her business into India. She wants to use her technology to reduce the marine pollution, and she is looking for in-country resources and funding to make her plan a reality.
And I'll introduce you to Michael. Michael is a portfolio manager of a family office based here in Monaco. And it's a family of ocean lovers who have tasked Michael to invest in SDG goals and impact investing projects with a medium to high risk appetite, focusing really on 3 SDG goals, one of which is marine pollution.
So based on Kenzie's profile, our matching algorithms have identified 2 potential investors.
And based on the information that Michael's provided, he has 2 projects as well that he could be interested in. So let's take a look and see if they've matched with each other. Now, as we can see here, Michael has 2 matches, but neither of them are Kenzie, and neither of them are particularly good as well from the score that we can see. So what's gone wrong there, Hash?
Well, let's find out. This is where Ocean Now can help Kenzie. She will run a gap analysis, and based on this, she sees that her profile requires some work. The platform has identified key areas she needs to improve on. And in this case, there are a few legal documents that are missing. She can choose to consult with legal experts that have been recommended by the platform, or she can use our intelligent search function to access our resource library to improve her profile and become more investor ready. So now let's fast forward. Kenzie has spoken to the right people. She has found the right information. She has filled in all the gaps. Her profile's looking good. But now let's see who are our new matches. Et voila. Kenzie has three strong choices, one being Michael. Now, both Kenzie and Michael choose to connect, and they can do so through our platform.
So this is how Ocean Now would work. We take a hyper-local approach to create a collaborative ecosystem where we can use AI to use a predictive model to help local companies and local projects expand and have a real, true global impact.
So Ocean Now fills a gap in the market where it purely focuses on SDG 14, and it brings all the key players onto one platform for ocean conservation. The platform will offer aqua innovators 30 days free access, followed by a monthly or annual subscription. For investors, we offer a paid annual subscription, which includes either a basic plan at 600 euros per year or a premium plan at 1,000 euros, which includes additional services like enhanced due diligence. Regarding the experts, we would earn 15% off their consulting fees. And this model has been based on various conversations our team has had with aqua innovators, investors, and experts who have all said that this would be a useful platform which they are willing to pay for such a service. And lastly, we would look to introduce advertising revenue to boost the top line. And based on current projections, we think we would break even in year 2.
So the next step now is to conduct market research and analysis to identify potential projects, partners, and investors, some of whom could be you sat in this room today, to really start the collaborative nature of our ecosystem to start having a global impact on the oceans. But first, I want to introduce you to the team behind Ocean Now, the people around me. We collectively have over 40 years experience from very diverse backgrounds and industries, and we're being brought together by a passion for ocean conservation. And for us, the real impact here is what we can do with the ocean. So if we can take a company like Kenzie's and take it from having a local impact in somewhere like Costa Rica, and we can provide it with access to funding, investment, knowledge, and we can make it have a wider impact across the globe, then that's truly what we're looking to do. Because with this, we can have a ripple effect where we're not only impacting SDG 14, but then we have a knock-on effect on the other SDG goals as well. So please join our wave. Let's come together for the ocean now before it's too late. Thank you.
I can start. Thank you so much. It's very inspiring. I'm really concerned about your advertising. How could you avoid greenwashing from companies with their blue campaign, sustainable campaign?
So I guess
will you choose which company will you work with them? How could you stop greenwashing from companies? Because your business model is relative to advertise, yeah? So will you choose what kind of company will you work with?
So thank you for the question. So what we would aim to do is exactly choose who would advertise on the platform. I think what we also want to do is create awareness of the solutions. So a solution might have a use case that only the business owners has identified, but maybe there's other foundations or investors that are interested in that solution as well. So it would be a very targeted advertising campaign, and it's a very small portion of the revenues. Thank you.
Yeah.
Be careful with them.
Yeah.
The blue washing.
Yeah.
Exactly. The goal is to find companies and projects that have a demonstrable effect on the oceans. We don't want companies that are using our platform and finding investment just to gain more money for profits, basically. The impact has to be on the oceans.
Hey, thank you very much for the presentation as well. I'd like to understand a little bit more your competitive landscape and how you differentiate from the startup studios or the ocean network, or I don't know if you can come back on the competitive landscape slide, or thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's a great question. I want to start by saying that competitive landscape isn't really the right word because we're not in competition with them. We don't want to compete with anybody. We want to be kind of like a network that brings all of these other companies and other networks together to work towards SDG 14. We don't want to take investment away from them. We don't want to take business away from them. We want to be one central platform that brings everyone together for the benefit of the oceans.
So what we found with the competitive landscape was that there are many platforms, but they connect maybe 2 or 3 players, but never all 4. So that's where we see we can combine all these platforms into one.
Great presentation, thank you. Going back to the mix of revenues, there's, if you can, there's 3 types revenues. Investors, somehow a crowdfunding type of flow, I would say. So we see that experts and aqua innovators are your main targets in terms of your client base and your revenue generation businesses. Aqua innovators, what type of persona do you include in this particular type of clients for your platform, or type of person that would subscribe to the platform?
Thank you very much for your question. So just to give you an example, the kind of persona that we would be looking at would be those who are already there. Just to give you an example, we have one startup which is based in Amsterdam. And they have been doing this for the past 2 years in trying to create, removing ocean plastics from the ocean. However, the biggest challenges which they face today is with respect to the legal policies. There are no clear legal regulations. The businesses expect them that the government would come with the regulations. The government expects the businesses to go and approach them. There is nobody in between who would create a platform for them to be able to speak. So this would be the kind of persona or the kind of customers that we would be targeting, and giving them that platform that would be able to connect, collaborate, and create something out of that. Thank you.
In addition, there would be another type of persona as well. For example, startups which are already very well set up in the local ecosystem. For example, if there's a startup in Chile, or as she's saying that there's a startup in Amsterdam, if they want to scale up, because cleaning plastic is universal. Once you are targeting one part of the ocean, you would want to do the same in other parts, and there might already be a need over there. So we would also be targeting such startups which want to scale horizontally to other geographies. And there as well, they would need a combination of expert advice, legal advice, and investors to help them reach other parts.
Just the last question from my side. Would you have, like in social networks, some objectives of creating specific premium profiles for some, I would say, well-known users of your platform? Is that something that you intend to do to differentiate your users, or you want all users to be at a playing level field?
I think
what are your plans?
That's a good question, but I think based on the AI model in there, it's based on a matching principle. So if we start giving sort of prominence to certain companies or certain institutions, then that kind of takes away from the impact that we could have. The sort of the beauty of it in an effect is that by creating matches, we're taking the money from where people want it to go to where it needs to go. We're not sort of saying, hey, this is a really good project, we believe you should invest in that, if that's not really what someone's looking for. If someone is looking specifically to tackle coral restoration or marine plastics, then that's the direction that we want to take them in, rather than towards a company that has sort of paid a premium so that we promote them on the platform.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So actually, we have time for one more question. So in that case, are there any audience questions? Because we can allow 1 or 2 audience questions so that we save a couple minutes of time. No?
Oh, there's one.
Okay. Oh, all right. We'll take, we'll just take one question from the audience, and then from there we'll move on. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to understand a bit about your strategy for gathering your users. So actually getting users onto the platform, and what is the desired cost for an acquisition of a user, if you have that?
Okay, so we can address that in two parts. Firstly, from the respect of gathering people to go on the network and projects, we would attend events like this. We would do a lot of networking, go to a lot of conferences to promote the platform. I think word of mouth within the industry is quite a useful tool when it comes to things like this. We're all quite international. We've spoken to projects across the world now, and when we've talked them through our idea, they've all been very receptive to it. They've all reacted positively. And I feel that that would have a chain reaction around those local regions to sort of grow organically, I guess. And then from a cost of acquisition perspective, Carla?
Yeah, so we're looking at doing quite extensive marketing, and we're looking to expense at around 25,000 euros a year in marketing expenses. Yeah.
I think the only addition to that is that we already see many platforms out there that already have a great big deal of networks. So the idea was to approach these platforms, to partner with them, and therefore get access to their network, and they basically come onto our platform on that scale. So you would scale up by leveraging the existing platforms that are around as well. So your cost of acquisition of the customers is essentially targeted 5 or 6 big platforms initially, and then you can go like individually at network sessions, etc.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Just on that one, I think it's a brilliant idea, and several of us here can probably help with connections to those platforms. So do not hesitate after, during a post to stop by and chat about this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Brilliant. Round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Once again, absolutely incredible job. Very well spoken, very well presented, very well thought out, most importantly. I would like to take this moment to reiterate what Mr. Lim said. If there's anybody who does have any questions, of course, feel free to approach the teams during the break that we will have today, so that you can ask any questions that you may not be able to ask at the moment. But I would like to take an extra moment also, just while I have your attention, to thank our sponsors for today who have so passionately supported the MOPC over the last few years. So that is CFM Indo-Suez Wealth Management, White Castle Partners, Nansen Polar Expeditions, and Vitale Monte Carlo. So again, a big thank you to them, and may I ask for a round of applause for them, please? Thank you. Excellent. With that said, we will go straight into category 2, which consists of startups and young entrepreneurs. So our first team in category 2 is Team Stream Ocean from Switzerland and the United States. A round of applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Lunsford. I'm the CEO of Stream Ocean. We're based in Zurich, Switzerland. And we are developing a real-time monitoring solution for ocean biodiversity. Now, I think everyone in the room knows that marine habitat and ocean biodiversity is in a huge decline. As you saw in the video, approximately 40% of ocean biodiversity has been lost over the last 50 years. And we've all heard proclamations about target setting to restore and revitalize the oceans, and also some money large amounts of capital hopefully are going soon to be flowing the way of our blue planet to help reverse the decline. Now, around 60 countries already have very stringent plans to monitor and preserve their coastlines. Hopefully more will join this group soon. But there's one problem facing all of these targets and countries and even companies when they are exposed to some of this regulation, and that is that we don't understand our oceans very well. When we want to monitor and assess the progress of anything happening in the ocean, we send divers. Now, when it comes to biodiversity in the ocean, just taking a boat to go somewhere scares away most of the biodiversity that was swimming there in the first place. So we simply cannot expect that sending more divers is going to be for a good way for us, or even a feasible way for us to achieve the assessment and understanding of increasing biodiversity over time. It's unscalable, it's expensive, risky, and it produces biased data sets. What we're doing in Stream Ocean is we propose to develop an underwater surveillance system similar to what we have on land. Cameras stay anchored somewhere below the water. Fish are observed, categorized, you can recognize species, you can communicate data points in real time and produce very engaging content to help people communicate what they see and how either activities or projects are progressing underwater. So again, underwater surveillance, where cameras are just anchored there and they stay there for years with little to no maintenance necessary. Now, what we do in order to provide a scalable solution, we work closely with our clients. We send clients equipment that they need to install. They then install it at their project site or in their in their activities, even if it's an industrial site. And immediately on our dashboard, they get access to daily footage as well as data points that are calculated in real time. So one thing that we're also aiming to do through our dashboard is have standardized metrics. Standardized biodiversity metrics are also a big issue today because you have different teams of people doing assessment on different types of projects. So you don't know if what project you do in location A versus project location B, how comparable they are. We won't know, we simply don't know what techniques works better than others because the metrics are not comparable. When you have a dashboard, when you have a standard methodological calculation, you can compare two data points and you can know very easily which one is better. So yeah, we're trying to tackle the standardization problem as well. Now, how do we work with companies and who do we work with? There are lots of companies doing action in the oceans, meaning there's dredging, there's offshore platforms, there's offshore wind. All of these companies in most of the countries that have regulations in place, they have a zero impact policy, and companies simply do not know how to comply with this policy right now because making an impact in the ocean is just, in their terms, part of business. So they're desperately trying to understand and grapple with the calculation of the impact they make, and they don't want to send divers. And the way that we provide our services to them is through a typical subscription process. Our clients subscribe to our tool. We send them the equipment. As I said, it's installed by the clients. They pay a monthly fee, and they eventually pay back the hardware and go on this, let's say, long-term recurring revenue process. That allows us to reduce costs upfront to anyone and also scale in the long term. So we have a few pilot projects that we've done so far. All of these sites have underwater surveillance systems with at least 3 cameras at each. Our projects have been in the Caribbean as well as in the Maldives. We've have 2 clients. One has been EPFL in Lausanne, where they're doing some work with our cameras in Egypt, in the Red Sea. And you can see a luxury resort in the Maldives has also installed our surveillance system because they're undertaking the largest private sector funded restoration efforts in the Maldives. Now, obviously, we aim and hope to scale up as fast as possible. We have deployed 14 cameras in the 5 projects I mentioned before. We aim to, over the next year, deploy at least 100 cameras. We have around 30 projects in our pipeline. And we aim to deploy by 2029 at least 500 cameras per year going forward so that we can truly develop this globally networked surveillance system for underwater understanding and analysis. I have a very diverse team. We're all, like I said, based in Switzerland. We have, I guess, a good balance of men and women in the team with lots of experience. You can see even my software team is mostly, smart software development is mostly female. And when it comes to ocean biodiversity monitoring, there are a few companies that is especially new companies in this market. You can see them listed here. I would say most of those companies in the sector are either making measurements using either eDNA testing, or they're using a buoy, which monitors the surface level of the water and a little bit below. But there's very few competitors when it comes to, you know, anchoring a camera below the water and doing analysis. The only competitor we really have in this space is called Fathom Ocean. It's based in the United States in Colorado. They're also a small company in a seed round. And we feel that our system, we know that our system is much lower cost and we're moving faster than them. And by our delivery approach, we think we're going to scale much faster. And well, we're currently in a pre-seed round. We're raising about 1 million Swiss francs, of which 30% has already been committed. So we're onboarding and talking with a lot of investors at this point in time. This will help us develop at least 10 projects over the next year and 30 projects over the next 2 years, hire more staff, establish the subscription revenue model, and so forth. So thanks for listening. I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. So you devise the cameras. When you get them settled, they are very exposed to storms, I guess, waves, and so on. Could you tell us how resistant they are? What is the average lifetime for a camera? And also tell us about the overall life cycle of the product. Do you get them back when they are over, and so on? Yeah, thank you. Oh, the autonomy. We have yeah, the autonomy of the cameras.
Oh. So, well, the setup of each project is usually slightly different. The most complicated involves us to ask our local partner to put something in the water like a pole where you can put a solar panel on top. And then we have like a little connection box and cables. And so we can provide all of that. And honestly, solar panels you can buy almost anywhere. If you need any kind of a steel structure, like you saw in the video, this can be done very easily by a local welder. So we've done anything to sending people just cables and cameras to asking people to put a structure in the water themselves, which they've done successfully. Almost all of our partners so far and henceforth are people that spend a lot of time, you know, actively putting something in the water anyways. So they're the best person to anchor cameras and put something in the water that, let's say, is a permanent fixture. In terms of the cameras themselves, they've also been attached or use a stand of some sort to, you know, in different ways. Sometimes, yeah, obviously we have video calls with our clients and they can show us what they propose, or we can send them a structure which we think is stable, but also replaceable if at a cheap, low cost if possible. So cost for us and replaceability are very important. If you saw the picture with this little pyramid tetrahedron structure, these are some metal end links with PVC pipe. Why did we do that? You can buy PVC pipe everywhere. And tetrahedron is one of the most durable structures you can find because you put pressure on one side and it's supported by all the other sides. So if a rock or, I don't know, a storm or something does something to the camera itself, we believe that sending the camera is really replacing it is pretty simple. We work with the Chinese camera manufacturer, and also sending them a replacement or sending them parts of the replacement stand is also, let's say, relatively easy, depending on where you are. But so, yeah, our focus has been cost and empowering people on how to install cameras. We also, from a, let's say, an IP or intellectual point of view, we work very closely with a camera manufacturer in China, and they customize the cameras for us depending on our design. And so, yeah, at least our experience are that the design improvements that we've made have meant that the cameras themselves don't need to be taken out of the water for more than a year. We're just a bit more than a year old, so I can only speak in that kind of time frame. But they stay clean and they just need, let's say, occasional maintenance every few months, just checking on it, but not actually taking it out of the water or making any changes. So I hope that gives you a perspective on a few of those topics that you mentioned.
About the autonomy of your cameras.
Oh,
How many hours or how many days?
oh yeah. So, I mean, the amount of time that we video record and do analysis, it's really in the, let's say, the hours of day where you have visible light. So it could be 10 hours, it could be 8 hours. This is somewhat customizable, but we would suggest doing it, let's say, doing analysis as many hours as possible during the day, because that's when you get more information about different species, obviously in the morning or middle of the day and in the night even. So, and the amount of autonomy they are is because, well, they're powered by solar, and you don't have to, you don't have to plug them in anywhere. You don't have to do anything other than assemble them and then, let's say, turn the system on, and then they're working. That's a marked difference from what you see in underwater cameras these days, because they're all tethered and they don't provide any data gathering or data analysis for you. It's all, you log into a platform and you can download the video. And so all of the analysis is where a lot of our IP currently lies. Yeah.
Hello, many thanks for the presentation. I have two questions. The first one is on the maintenance. How do you avoid having too much algae depositing on the camera and therefore obstructing the view, either on the camera itself or on the structure? And then a second question on the biodiversity measurement standards that you mentioned. What is the specific standards that you are following?
Do you want to start with that?
Yeah. Is it working? Oh, yes. So yeah, for the first question about the algae and biofilm, it's one of our main concern. And the way we prevent that is actually quite simple. It's first, there's a brush that go over the camera automatically every hour or every half an hour. We can set it up as much as we want. And also we are developing something called UVC that shine over the lens. And UVC is very good at killing or not allowing anything to grow, basically. So this is the way we can prevent biofilm to grow. And the second question is biodiversity metrics. So the way we do is we just use biodiversity metrics that are actually well known in the scientific community. It can be beta biodiversity, alpha biodiversity. They're quite easy to calculate it. And the way they standardize, it's just by AI. It's not a human that do it in a different way to count the fish. It's a robot or AI that do it the same way all the time. So I hope that answers your question.
I also had two questions. The first one is, how is the data transmitted from underwater, and what's the maximum depth your system would be working? And the second one is the data collected by your subscribers, proprietary data of the subscribers, so you have access and you can use that data for your own purpose?
Well, so I guess regarding that last question about the proprietariness of the data, well, we try to be as open as possible with the dashboard that we have. So, and a lot of times we are not. It's very expensive to transmit video data. You know, just look at your cell phone bill if you watch a lot of streaming video for a month. So we're actually only saving, let's say, clips of video every day. But we're saving metrics from the whole day. And all of that is available on our clients, on our dashboard for our clients. So effectively, each client co-owns the information about their project as much as we do. And how the data is transmitted. At the moment, we're transmitting data by working with local mobile data providers. So, well, we were in the Caribbean and also in the Maldives at a couple of projects. All of that is done, with mobile data with SIM cards. We do work with one global SIM. So in each connection box, we have 2 routers and we have 2 SIM cards. One is with international access and one is with local access. Local access is obviously much cheaper. So it's communicated with a subscription to a local data provider. But we've been lucky so far. We've set up, the mobile data providers we work with, they're very excited because they think it's a really cool application. And so they've given us very cheap and generous data usage and cost. So And we're also talking with like one of the biggest in Switzerland called Swisscom about being our global data provider and not charging us too much money. So yeah, yeah, I guess it's really all about partnerships, and people are pretty excited about, including mobile data companies, like I said, about giving people access to what's underwater. Most countries by the sea, I would say a lot of the people in big companies, you can find divers and you can find people that are passionate about the ocean. So when they hear this project, they usually are very happy to just, so far have been very happy to really help us, I would say. And I don't, did I get all of your questions? Okay.
Yeah, I think one other point we can say, when there's no proper mobile data, or maybe the local mobile data provider is not as helpful as it has been so far. If we, for example, work with resorts, they often have Wi-Fi just for their tourist people going there. So we can also use it, and we can, for example, use it at night to get the data so it doesn't disturb the users as well. So it's another way to transmit data.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you to the judges, and thank you to you guys for such a fantastic presentation. A nice big round of applause, please. That is incredible. Again, it's something that it's something that I never could have imagined myself being so important. Yet the work that you guys are doing is so monumentally crucial to the survival of our oceans. So again, big congratulations to you guys. And with that said, we will be moving into our next team for category 2, which is Team Silent Returns from the United States and Portugal. So a nice big round of applause, the video, and then the presentation, please. Thank you.
Is restoring subsea habitats to natural balance with off-the-shelf technology. The ocean is suffering from human impact, as over 600,000 tons of fishing nets are lost in the ocean each year. These lost nets keep fishing and shedding microplastics as they break down. There's no cost-effective or environmentally friendly approach for recovering ghost gear. So it accumulates, and the deadly problem gets worse. Technology exists to make an impact, but it's largely being used for offshore energy and defense. Silent Returns will integrate this existing technology with special tooling and financial strategies for a scalable approach to recovering deadly ghost gear. In Phase 1, Silent Returns will deploy its resources to Florida's Osborne Reef in October 2023. This subsea tire field of over 1 million tires is a proving ground to test scalable, scientific methods for removing ghost gear. Support us and watch us tackle the deadliest problems in the ocean.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lucas Wisman, founder of Silent Returns, and I'm a recovering engineer. I have experience in large human-occupied robotics companies, as well as robotic startups. In Silent Returns, we plan to drive down the cost of working subsea to the point where humanity is compelled to do something about our oceans from below. So let me start with the how and the why. And let me say that over the last couple of years, I've been researching a lot of ocean issues, and they really make me upset. And I think they upset you guys too. Each year, fishermen lose plastic fishing nets to the ocean, 640,000 tons of them. And this is the source of the majority of our microplastics in the ocean. And they're called ghost nets because they keep fishing, killing small fish, large fish, turtles, mammals. Invasive species have no predators in the Mediterranean or in the Gulf of Mexico, and they ravage biodiversity. Up until the 1960s, our world's defense forces disposed of their surplus munitions and chemical weapons in the oceans. These issues impact sea life and the humans that rely on the ocean for their protein and for tourism every day. In 1956, Jacques Cousteau released The Silent World and scuba. And he demonstrated how the scuba could be used for science and exploration underwater. Now, Can scuba be used to restore subsea habitats? Well, there's some issues. Divers are time and depth limited. They can carry a limited amount of equipment, and ultimately, expeditions are very expensive and they can be dangerous. So scuba just really isn't a solution to the restoration challenge. What about robots? Well, the vessels that deploy robots, they go for about $30,000 to $100,000 a day. They emit 10 to 30 metric tons of CO2 per day. And they can only deploy these robots in fairly flat seas. So expeditions are seasonal and are often delayed by weather. Subsea science just isn't happening at the scale that we need it to. We need that to inform our policies and make wise decisions about our oceans. These issues and challenges were the genesis for Silent Returns. We're a public benefit company with a triple bottom line objective: profit, social impact, and environmental impact. We've developed the CURE. It's an acronym for Campaign-Based Uncrewed Restoration Equipment. It's a robotic system designed to drive down the cost of subsea science and restoration. The system is deployed by a crewed vessel and guided by humans from shore who are connected by satellite. It combines the innovations from off-the-shelf technology from defense and offshore energy, and allows stakeholders to share data, supervise operations, and perform work from the safety of shore. When the work is complete, the vessel collects the cure and the waste. We plan to make money through funded restoration projects and also by leasing the cure system to scientists who can then focus on science and not be encumbered by robotic investments. We've done the financial analysis to convince ourselves that the plan is feasible. We plan to demo the system at the Osborne Reef, where 2 million tires were dumped in 1970 to create an artificial reef. Now, since then, some tires have been removed, but there's still over 1 million that remain. We plan to seek out high impact projects to push the boundaries of subsea restoration and make an impact while we're growing capabilities. The rolling projects will build a knowledge base to motivate local communities to muster the resources to restore subsea habitats regionally. As we demonstrate financial milestones, we'll grow the company. We're currently raising pre-seed investment to prove out our concepts. We have a seasoned team that will carry us through the seed round. And we're testing the cure and developing specialized tooling to reduce the risk ahead of a deployment to the Osborne Reef, where we plan to collect tires in October. The duration and impact will be a function of our pre-seed investment success. The sea trial is intended to win the hearts and minds of investors, partners, and those who love the oceans. Jacques Cousteau introduced scuba through the silent world. Silent Returns wants to introduce the cure to inspire and support future ocean scientists, some who may not be able to physically scuba or have the financial resources to learn. Follow us, support us, and remember, most sea life is under the water. So by restoring subsea habitats, we can be impacting the lives of 3 billion people who rely on it for their welfare. Thank you.
At the first question, you haven't focused much on the technology itself. Could you give us a bit of background on the technology?
Yeah, so this is about the right time when I tell everybody that I also have another company in Scotland that's working on the technology problem. It's called the company's called Honu Works. They're targeting the defense and offshore energy sectors, and we're developing the technology. Some of them are enabling. It goes a little bit further than what we need for what I described here, but there are components, the software and the communications buoy. These are pieces that are coming from that company. And then as far as the ROVs are concerned, we're working with 3 ROV companies right now to get their ROVs to a point, their light work class ROVs. And we're helping them actually test out industrial strength control technology for over the horizon control that they don't have customers for yet in the offshore energy sector. It's a chicken and the egg problem. But they're willing to work with us because in our proving ground scenario, if something breaks, it's okay. There's no industrial schedule that we're working to. And that's why I'm calling it a proving ground. I said I'm a recovering engineer. I came out of the automotive industry. And in proving grounds, we used to take automobiles and beat the heck out of them to see what would break. And that's what we're going to do with the technology, using the tires. Nice uniform shape, constant weight. They're in 60 to 100 feet of water, 3 kilometers offshore. It's a really nice place to prove out the technology. So maybe more than what you were asking for, but I just wanted to go a little further.
Hello, many thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask 2 questions. The first one is, how do you work or intend to work with fishermen regarding the ghost nets question? And then on the invasive species side, it seems like a very delicate and very minutious work.
Yeah.
How do you ensure the quality work of doing it like with a automatic device, robotic device?
Great questions. So fishing nets first. There's already organizations out there that are working with fishermen to make sure that when they have nets that are old and they want to discard them, they've created dumpsters. They put dumpsters where the fishermen congregate, and they recycle them for free. And there's organizations that are then taking those plastics and making shoes and various retail items, trying to repurpose that plastic. The other one, it was fishing nets and the
invasive species.
And the invasive species. So I only went really deep on the lionfish. I know there's others, but there was a competition years ago to create a worker robot that could collect lionfish. And the one I showed up in the picture there is they tried to electrocute them, and it worked to a degree, but it's not how they do it now. So there's another company that I can't get into too much detail because of NDAs, but they are actually developing a robot that can use targeting mechanisms so they can spear the lionfish. And then it has a collection area underneath the ROV for collecting the ROV, where the lionfish can then be harvested for eating. It's actually a white flaky fish. Goes for about $5 a pound. So it's a really, but the thing with this approach is those ROVs that are going after the lionfish, they're controlled on boats, and they're controlled by joysticks, and the pilots are getting seasick. So the idea is to not deploy those ROVs, those lionfish hunters from a boat, but to actually make them resident, and I call it, and then keep the fish in lion cages. So and then allow the fishermen to go out and collect them once there's enough, and then bring them to shore. So hope that answered your question. Okay. Battling over the microphone.
Yes. Thank you again for your presentation. A quick question. So the alternative you propose is, well, one of the competitive side is that you are maybe providing a cheaper solution compared to divers who would go in, and also it would be less efficient.
On a project basis, yes.
And project based. Could you develop a little bit on the price that you would propose and the cost that you have as well?
Well, I'll tell you the baseline prices, what I have to beat in order to be economical. So I listed some of the prices for deploying ROVs to do the work. So ROVs would be required if we go deeper than diver depth, right? And so those costs, they start at $30,000 to $100,000 a day. And so, and it's the vessel price, even for scuba diving, it's the vessel price that dominates. So, so when it comes to scuba, it's largely how big of a vessel do you want? And that's usually a function of how far offshore you want to go, because then you need to carry all your supplies, provisioning, food, care, cabins, and all that other stuff. So, you know, to your point, maybe near shore applications might be easy to get some, you know, ribs out there, and divers can go off the side and they can do some science on like coastal science. That might be a really nice way to do it. But what I've found is that in deeper water or further out, it takes more time to get out there. It's very expensive to stay out there, burning a lot of diesel for all those generators, keeping everyone, you know, connected to the shore. It gets very expensive very quick, and that's why it's uneconomical and unenvironmental. Hope I answered your question.
Brilliant. We actually have a little bit of time, so we can ask one or two audience questions if there are any. So is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question about this project? Don't be shy. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. Then there's the timer. So anyway, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much, Lucas, as well. Thank you to our judges. Brilliant job. Very well done. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lucas. And thank you again to our judges. So with that being said, we will be moving into our final project for this category, which is Project Prono from France. So I would like to ask the team, Prono, to please come to the stage while we show your video. And I would first ask a nice big round of applause, please. Thank you.
Limiting CO2 emissions is no longer enough. We need to actively remove CO2 from the air in massive quantities. The ocean captures almost 30% of our CO2 emissions. However, seawater becomes more acidic as it absorbs CO2, which limits the ocean's CO2 capture capacity. Prono develops industrial systems that can plug into existing coastal industries, like desalination plants, and turn their effluents into antacid effluents. These antacid effluents locally reverse the acidification of surface waters, increasing their CO2 capture capacity. Prono's patent-pending process consists of existing technological bricks assembled in an innovative way. Prono is more scalable than other CO2 removal projects because we do not produce waste or subproducts, and we include CO2 storage for thousands of years. By monitoring the antacid effluents, Prono issues CO2 removal certificates, which are sought after by companies and countries with net zero commitments.
Hi everyone, we're Prono and we do CO2 removal. What's CO2 removal? Well, quite frankly, we are late. We are late on taking serious climate action. So late actually that drastically reducing our CO2 emission is no longer enough. On top of that, and at the same time, we need to restore ecosystem and actively remove CO2 from the air in order to balance out residual emissions, be net zero by 2050 and net negative afterwards. The problem is there is a very large gap between where we stand now and where we need to be very soon in terms of CO2 removal capacity. There's a good news though. The oceans already does a big job for us. 30% of our CO2 emissions goes in the water every year. However, as the ocean rapidly takes up CO2 from the air, two things happen. First, it saturates, and second, it acidifies. And as you know, this disrupts ecosystems and marine activities. So what Prono does is restoring the ocean's natural capacity to capture and permanently store CO2 from the air in a sustainable, scalable, and asset-light manner.
So how do we do this? At Prono, we develop industrial systems that could co-locate with existing coastal industries, like desalination plants, water treatment plants, or power plants. Now, our systems take their effluent and turn it into an alkaline effluent. This alkaline effluent locally reverses the acidification of surface waters and increases their CO2 capture capacity. So we are both restoring ecosystems while removing CO2 at the same time. Now let's take the case, for example, of a desalination plant. Desalination plants, they take seawater and they separate it into flows, a desalinated flow and a brine flow. Now this brine is basically concentrated seawater that we could take and transform into an alkaline flow, only requiring the footprint that you could see here represented as a blue square. Now, what happens inside this blue square? Our technology is an innovative assemblage of existing and proven technological rigs, which are modular. This modularity is particularly important for scaling up. In this way, we produce a safe type of alkalinity, which has already been proven safe in the aquaculture industry for ecosystem restoration for decades. And on top of that, we do not produce any waste, which is very important for scaling.
But there's another thing that's important for scaling, to find the right business model. On one side, we have coastal industry partners. We valorize the currently wasted effluents and the benefits from increased environmental performance at a lower operating cost. Using their feedstock and the infrastructure, we run our process and issue CO2 removal certificates to our customers. These certificates contribute to their net zero and ocean sustainable development goals. We provide them with a reliable supply of high-quality CO2 removal certificates, which are delivered through multi-year CO2 removal as a service subscriptions. Shaving the constraint of CapEx is key to scale. We leverage the modularity of the technology to scale on-site as we secure additional revenue. Combining pre-purchases and locked-in future cash flows, we are enabling project finance schemes. The CO2 removal market is booming. In the short term, major corporate companies have pledged to spend $1.4 billion by 2030, creating a window of opportunity now. In less than 30 years, the market is expected to reach the size of the current oil and gas industry.
Now, what have we done so far? Since our cooperation last November, we filed 1 patent. We also confirmed the interest of 8 marketplaces in order to resell our CO2 removal certificates, and also the interest of potential customers when we are already deploying. We are also part of 3 accelerating programs, both in the European Union and in the US. We've been awarded by the French government, Agropatech Institute, and recently the Massachusetts Institute of Technology that gave us their Ocean Innovation Prize. Most importantly, actually, we engaged 3 equipment providers which confirm the feasibility of our process, and in fact are already giving us free samples of their technology so we could test it. And also we confirmed the interest of 3 desalination plants that would like to try our technology for our first pilot site. Currently, we're working with 2 research centers to develop our laboratory scale pilot by the end of this year. So by the end of the next year, we could have our first economically relevant demonstrator settled in Spain. Oh, once a little bit more. So if we would only consider the desalination industry, with Prono, we could remove hundreds of megatons of CO2 per year. However, we could also consider other industries like wastewater treatment and power plants. And in this way, we would radically increase our CO2 removal potential.
So a quick word about us. Juan is an environmental engineer and a PhD in process design with a focus on water treatment. Myself, I have a background in building successful VC-backed hardware ventures in the field of decarbonation. I'm a graduating MBA student. So we are ocean-passionate individuals and are actively looking for like-minded, highly motivated individuals to join us on this journey. Okay. And there's a slide missing, but anyhow, this journey to bring low-cost CO2 removal at scale to the benefits of the climate, coastal communities, and ecosystems worldwide. And this could even start here in Monaco. I mean, we can leverage the city water treatment plants and its ocean outfall, or even this here in this very building, the Ocean Museum is pumping water in and out. Thanks for listening, and we are ready to take your questions.
Thanks a lot. You did a great job. And me, so on one side, you were helping remove carbon through alkalinity enhancement. I think we can call this way. And on the other hand, you use energy, I guess, to produce the the alkalinity enhancing compounds. And so, have you conducted an LCA to make sure that the balance is actually net positive?
Yes. Actually, in our case, the techno-economic analysis and the LCA go hand in hand because what we're selling is basically the CO2 that we remove versus the CO2 that we generate due to our processes, right? So yeah, we run it. Actually, our approach is an electrochemical based approach to generate this alkalinity. So most of our CO2 emissions are coming from this electricity requirement. That being said, considering the grids that we found in particularly in Spain, in France, in the European Union in general, where there's renewable energies, we are around an efficiency in our LCA of over 70%. And of course, we could even rise this in the future when we're thinking of particularly performant wind power.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you are IP pending. Could you expand a bit on this? Did you receive any feedback yet on the innovation you're doing?
Okay, I can take this one. So we are a recent company. We incorporated 6 months ago. We filed for patents in February. So typically it takes 8 to 9 months to get a feedback. However, we've run prior art extensive research internally, externally with an advising, and also with a French IP Institute. Following that, they even granted us, gave us a grant for us to apply quickly because it's strategic. Yeah.
Yes, I have another one. So you mentioned that CO2 removal certificates are one part of your revenue stream. The other one, I'm not sure if you're being paid for actually collecting the effluents, and are you or not?
So for now, we are not. Essentially, what we do, I'll go back to the business model side. We are not, in the sense that we are using something that's been wasted, but we don't pay for it. So one of our main feedstock is wasted brines, which we don't pay for.
Okay, but we could imagine that you get paid for that at some point.
Yeah, we're placing ourselves in the worst case scenario in this particular case.
So now your main revenue stream is the CO2 removal certificates. Have you looked at from what price you're starting to be economically competitive, and what would that level be if you looked at it? Price of carbon.
Yes, absolutely. So this technology needs to scale. So the price that you have at the first pilot or first of a kind is very different from the one that you have at the last one. For now, what's important to keep in mind for those that are not forcibly aware is we're talking CO2 removal certificates. We're not talking carbon credits. We're not talking carbon allowances. So the price ranges are very different. In this kind of CO2 removal certificates, we're talking $1,000 to $2,000. So we are in the midst of this range now with a plan to decrease it to below $300 in the next 7 years.
That's the first of a kind price.
But there's plenty of buyers at this price at the moment, so it's not an issue short term.
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. Have you already made an impact assessment on the co-benefits other than carbon in a positive or negative way on the biodiversity or local communities? I mean, all the other impacts?
So when it comes to environmental impacts, and I guess many people here may care about this, there's two main differentiations. We have the place where we are discharging the alkalinity. In our case, we're using ocean outfalls, so they have a range of 30 to 50 meters where there's this impact. That particular area actually has already been studied before because these outfalls already exist. There's model and real data that backups what we're saying. So in that part, it's covered mostly because of the recent literature, particularly OceanNets are doing a great job. It's mostly third party. So we're in contact with these people to keep us with their research. And when it comes to the co-benefits that are longer, farther from the place where we discharge, there's literature backing up that there's a positive impact. And also what it's important to keep in mind is that we're introducing alkalinity, and by doing so, we're not increasing the pH of the ocean. What we're trying to do is try not to lose the pH and maintain it. So it's quite particular to understand what's a co-benefit here if we consider what would happen if we just do not deploy, right? It's a particular scenario.
Maybe a quick, very quick one. Really to understand. So, will you be monitoring of course, I guess the pH of the water next to the plants, and yeah, how will you do this? Will it run all the time, or would you stop it sometimes? I don't know.
Yes, so that falls within what we call monitoring, reporting, and verification, or MRV for the people from carbon removal. So basically, we are measuring the pH at the end of the pipe, and we're also measuring the pH in the area, pH and also alkalinity, not really the same, temperature, salinity, and conductivity. So this is the data that we need to put into the models in order to actually be able to estimate the CO2 removal of our activities. So we are deploying that, yes.
Knowing, maybe just to add up on that, we are targeting industries that already sits on the coast for many years. So we have a baseline, and there's already a monitoring system we can piggyback on.
How does this work? Brilliant. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you to the judges for your questions. We do have an extra minute or two, so we can open the audience questions. If any of you in the audience would like to ask a question to this team. Is there any takers for a question at the moment? Wow. Fair enough. Good. Brilliant. So a nice big round of applause, please. Thank you very much for Team Prono. Congratulations, gentlemen. As always, very well done. This is one of those projects that really makes me happy that I didn't continue to study engineering, because it is so impressively complex in a lot of ways, and you guys have really been able to find the pieces of your problem that are very complicated, complex, and you've been able to dumb them down in a way for people like me to be able to understand. So huge thank you to that, guys, and a big congratulations on all the work you've done. And with that being said, that will conclude our presentations today for our teams. Excuse me. So what we're going to do next is we are going to, first and foremost, I'm going to ask you, before we leave the room, to just make sure that you take anything with you, any jackets, any bags, anything that you have in the room, take it outside with you, because after this, we will be doing the award ceremony. So that's where His Serene Highness, the Prince, comes in. So we just want to make sure that everything is good to go. So again, when you do leave the room, take everything with you. And we will now be asking the jury to take the time and deliberate. So they've seen a lot of very interesting projects. I imagine that you guys are going to have a very lively debate in the salle tortue, which, for those of you who don't speak French, is the turtle room. So the jury, I would like to ask them to please begin your deliberation. And after that, we will have a meet the team session in the next room over called the salle d'honneur. And we will have tables there for each team so that those of you who would like to go and speak individually to the team members will have the opportunity to do so. And after that, we will meet back here to begin the awards ceremony. Thank you very much. You guys are free to go. You don't have to you don't have to wait for me. Again, just outside, meet the teams. Jury will also take the time to go and deliberate. Thank you very much.